Hi, Allan.
Hi, Barb.
It sure is exciting to be commemorating the 20th anniversary of the release of Drowaton, the third album from your former band, Starlight Mints.
Yes, it is. Happy 20th.
Yes, and I'm sure a lot of people aren't quite sure if they've been saying that title quite right, so as we take a closer look at it, let's start there and tell folks where that name came from.
So, I was carrying around a notebook, and I had some pretty bad titles, like Heatures of Crabbit, Mirror Horror, to name a few. But then I started thinking about palindromes, and I started writing down some palindromes, and I found a really cool one in this really weird, obscure website that just had tons and tons of palindromes. And it was Drowatancy is not a word. And I just thought, Drowaton, not a word. That's a really cool backwards word. And it kind of stuck. And so I just
took it to the rest of the band, and they liked it.
Yeah.
But so you originally had kind of a stock answer to it, saying that it was the act of making music or any art while you are sleeping, or at least half sleeping. Some of the best songs I've written in my sleep.
Yeah, we were just trying to tie it. We were trying to not let the press think that it was a word backwards. We were thinking it was our little joke, but and so we were kind of making things up, and it kind of ties to the song, the title track, Drowaton, I'm Only Sleeping,
Right.
So that was just kind of a fun thing we had with it.
Right, cool. Well, so how did the Seattle-based record label Barsuk get involved?
We were touring, and we ended up having a lunch with Josh from Barsuk, and just were in talks. We were
in Seattle.
Yeah, in Seattle. Right. I believe it was in Seattle. We were not on a label because we the previous label, PS America, decided to pull their U.S. Label, and so we needed a label. We were a pretty established band at the time, and I think it was good for both parties. They were coming off of having Death Cab for Cutie and Not a Surf, had some pretty big albums before us. So
you signed a 2-record deal with them.
I think it was 2 records with an option for a third. Yeah. So.
Right. Okay. Well, let's talk about the background of the songs and the album in general. You've said you were in kind of a weird space going into making the album. Could we touch on that just a little bit?
Yeah, I was newly single for the first time in several years, and that ended up being a really good thing for me. And it was very free and not very social, because when you're touring, the last thing you want to do is go out and go to do things. So it was a very kind of time spent alone working, and
right. Just kind of buried yourself in it. Yeah. So in an interview with the independent Florida Alligator Online, you said you wanted to make more of a rock record, a little more up-tempo as song structures go, and that it's a challenge when you write a song. I don't write it with it being played live in mind.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind at the time, we had equipment-wise, we had Pro Tools, which 5 years before, I only had an 8-track cassette player to record my ideas. Now, we had a nice preamp, nice mics, nice converters. At the time, that was kind of a big thing. And so, it was pretty much unlimited tracks at that point in time, and we were totally taking advantage of it. And that we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about tracking drums at Bell Labs.
Right. You didn't have a huge budget, but you had that preamp and a converter and the mic that, we ended up using a lot of that same setup?
So we ended up that went a long way. As up until Treater Strangely, we used the same vocal mic I've been using since then. The same converters and the same preamp, the Chandler TG2. So it's been really good to us.
Right. So a lot of that material was pretty close to being done before you went into the studio to record the drums. You said you'd been playing Eyes of the Night, 17 Devils live.
Rosemary.
And you had this homemade version of Rhino Stomp that you'd play as they walked on stage, as you all walked on stage. And
then we eventually played it, I think, before making this record. I mean, we had to have. I mean, looking back. It's funny because I have a version of that to play. I think we'll do that a little later.
Right. You said it was the first record where you really had the chance to record all your vocals alone, like either in the studio space or your home studio, no distractions.
Yeah, I mean, I was used to doing vocals alone, like with my old 4-track and 8-tracks, but not doing like official takes. So this was like a really big, cool step-up thing. I mean, like when we did Built on Squares, we had like at Andy's house, we had, the station over there. So I would go over there, do the vocals. But now I could like do the vocals any time of the day, any time of the night. And that could be the official vocal, So it was really, really opening for me,
Right. So June to November of 2005, most of the final recording was done. Some at Trent Bell's Bell Labs in Norman, Oklahoma, with Trent producing, engineering, and editing alongside you and Andy Nunez, right?
Yeah, I mean, most of the editing I did because we did the tracking at Trent's.
Yeah, the drums and bass tracks.
Yeah,
mainly.
So we did sort of unorthodox way of tracking the drums on this. We would record like kick and snare by itself to the song, and then overdub the hi-hats and overdub the rides and some of the fills. So it ended up being like 3 drum sets, sometimes maybe more. So. It was pretty chaotic, and I bet a lot of work for Trent in the end.
Right. You did most of the guitar at home using Dave Spindle's amp,
Yeah,
right?
Dave Spindle's Vox AC 120. Thank you, Dave. That was a very, 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 very nice sounding amp.
Right.
And I wish I could afford one.
Let's see. And so Marion came in one day to do her vocal backups at your home studio.
At the home studio,
right.
Yeah. I remember that.
And Kevin Webb recorded horns in his own studio, right?
Kevin in the
reference
team.
Tracks and all that.
I gave him reference tracks, and I could have maybe written some notes down. At the time, I really didn't know what I was doing with that and brass. But he definitely had reference tracks that they all mimicked. I don't know, mimic's the right word, but they did a tremendous job. And I think it was more of like a team effort where Kevin was, doing most of the busy work, and the other guys tracking. But I wasn't there. I really wish I could have been there. But
I bet.
All I know is I got the tracks and they sounded delicious.
Uh-huh. Yeah, an interview with Paste, you said it was a running battle between me and Trent, with me saying the drums were too prominent or too compressed. He always won that battle. I would say it's part of his style.
Yeah,
and now you say to kind of wish you'd kind of held back a little bit.
I totally wish I would have not said that.
You just weren't really used to it.
The thing is, when you're working on something like every day and you hear it, like the drums, like I was hearing the drums every day. I would hear the close mics, the far away mics, and it all sounded so good. And then when you just not used to hearing it, and it's compressed a little bit, it just really kind of messes with you. And so I realize now that was really kind of a terrible thing to say, and I love the way Trent mixed the record.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you meant it as a negative thing. You had Andy on the drums, and Trent and you were kind of directing and punching in. You'd made those drum samples for Built on Squares, and so then Trent was mixing it after you kind of compiled and
yeah, we would totally, like, everything was like, that was kind of my job, was to, obviously, I'm the lead singer, get all the vocals, get all the tracks organized, and take the tracks out you don't want. Just have everything and then consolidate it all and then give it to Trent to mix. And we did the mixing pretty quickly, and so while Trent's mixing, I'm sure maybe Andy was there with Trent, Andy and Marion. I was just compiling and making sure everything was ready to go, all the arrangements and stuff. So I never actually got to be in the mixing room while they're mixing, but they would send me the mixes via iChat, and we would make notes and stuff. And that was kind of our thing. We did that on the last album too.
So in an interview with You Ain't No Picasso, you said it's always an on and off process of working on music when you can. A few of these songs, Pearls and Inside of Me, were written and mostly arranged over 7 years ago and recorded and re-recorded over the years. We officially started recording last March 2005. It always feels like this long, drawn-out battle when we make a record. I think we had more time to finish Drowaton, and that made a big difference in the production.
Yeah, we gave ourselves a lot of time, and I needed that time to edit those drums because the way we did it, it was like I really had to it was a puzzle.
You'd taken off time from touring, and you were really exclusively working on the record at that point, right?
Yeah. So that was a full time. I remember. I'm thinking like 2-3 months of just editing drums. I remember like finally getting over that hump where the drums were edited, and it's like, whew,
A pretty solitary project because there was a collaboration that had resulted in a little person named Penny.
That's right, and Penny was Marion was on tour pregnant, full on, for a while, and then they had Penny, and so they a little bit, it was I had a lot more freedom on that record, which was really a great thing, and I'm really, really proud of this record,
Right. So it was mastered by Garrett Haynes of Tree Lady Studios in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
You've said you don't really have a
I don't have a
recollection.
Garrett. I love Garrett, and we've became friends after that. But the next record was the record we really did a lot of more mastering on, like where we. Like each song, the vocals were separated on different what do you call them, stems, and so this record, I don't really remember the process of mastering. Of course, I wasn't there for the mastering because he lives in Pittsburgh, and he did a great job. It sounds fantastic.
Right, absolutely. So let's talk about the artwork there of Beautiful. It is hypnotic and done by the great David Hoffner.
David Hoffner, a really good friend.
Yes, has a graphic design company called Upside Down Design now, and that CD package is actually on his site, and he says the entire identity was developed around the idea of razzle-dazzle, a World War I camouflage technique to disguise the position of ocean vessels. The sound for Drowaton was a move away from their previous 2 albums, drawing on more dark topics camouflaged in pop arrangements.
Yeah, that describes it pretty well.
It really is.
I heard that today earlier. I'm not sure if I've ever heard that quote before until today.
Yeah, he's kind of beautifully described it. And he also did layout for us on our first...
Yeah, for the Moonlit Fables of Jack the Writer, Double V's first album.
Right. So let's talk about the musicians involved with the album. Of course, Andy Nunez, as we've discussed, handled the drums and kind of sections and samples. And Javier Gonzalez did bass on a few of the songs on Eyes of the Night, Rose Marie, Rhino Stomp, and 17 Devils.
Which were the songs we were, playing live. So it was kind of a perfect storm for that. Yeah.
Right. And then Marianne Nunez, she sang backup vocals on 5 songs, Pumpkin, Eyes of the Night, Torts, Inside of Me, and The Bee.
And I believe we did that in my home studio at the time.
Oh, yeah?
So we had
But she didn't play any of the instruments?
No.
Right? Not on this album, but...
She did on the first record. She played flute on...
Margarita?
Margarita, yeah.
Right, okay. And you, of course, handled lead vocals, guitar, synths, backing vocals, and a good chunk of the bass guitar, probably, 8 of the 12 songs.
Yeah.
So, because, again, you said it was a pretty secluded experience at the time with.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of known to do a lot of the bass stuff on the other albums too.
But so most of the production really moved to your home studio there.
Yeah, we started off in the Opolis, next door to the Opolis. We had rented a space that was actually built as a recording studio. And I had an office in the back, and there was a piano that we did some stuff with. And that was a lot of fun, but then that kind of we ended up not renting that anymore. But it was sort of like kind of the half period of making that record. And so the studio then went to my home, where I had this table.
There are so many cool guest musicians on this album. I would love for us to talk more about them. So let's start with the lovely Stephen Stark. He performed the cello parts on Rosemary and Rhino Stomp. Stephen, of course, was part of the fellowship students, and man, I loved their 2003 EP, The Youth Want Distortion, which was also recorded at Bell Labs. And
I remember first hearing it at Bell Labs.
Brilliant.
Yeah, really good.
Brilliant album. And Stephen, of course, has a lot of great solo work he's doing now. But you, of course, also play the cello. So could you tell us more about recruiting him to handle the parts here?
Yeah, it's a little tricky to play cello and record by yourself, number one. I wrote all the parts, but I wrote them kind of half and half on the cello, and then I used sample library or a Reason. Probably to do some of it, but it's kind of easy breezy for him. He came in and just nailed the parts, and it was great.
And your cello is pretty trashed out.
Yeah, my cello that I still have is good for playing live, and that's about it. It's really great for playing live because you could kind of knock it around and stuff.
We're fortunate to have.
We're fortunate to have
really good cello access.
Yes, we do.
Our brother-in-law.
My brother-in-law owns a cello that we currently use in the studio now.
Right. So Kevin Webb handled trombone on Pumpkin and Sidewalk, and Kevin is awesome. He also recorded trombone parts for 3 of our Double V songs.
That's true.
So how did he come to be involved with this?
Well, Andy was the one who I didn't think I even knew he was a trombone player before that. And so Andy recommended him, and Kevin kind of spearheaded most of all the horn sections for those songs. But I first met Kevin teaching guitar because he's a great guitar player, and I was substituting teaching. That was my first time to ever teach guitar at Charlie Rails. And met him, great guy, and we've been friends since. So.
Right. And so he recruited Ricky Brooks on the trumpet on Rosemary and Matt Blagg trumpet on Pumpkin, right?
Correct.
And Ricky, he's the Nixon's bass player and backing vocalist.
That's true.
Right?
He is. He was, and then he wasn't, then he is now again.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
And Matt's very talented trumpet player.
Not sure I don't think I've ever met him, but he's a local songwriter, I believe, and performer. Mm-hmm. Cool guy.
Awesome. And of course, the very talented Brent Williams recorded violin parts for 17 Devils, Sidewalk, and Rhino Stomp. And he also performed strings on songs on our two most recent Double V releases.
He did. We went to Kansas.
Yeah, we did.
He lives in Kansas.
Yeah.
Brent's a great guy, yeah. We've longtime friends now. He played on Built on Squares.
So you may have met him there first.
I may have met him in the studio, or I may have met him teaching, because I know he taught at the same place. Well, I was talking about where Kevin taught. And so it's really it's a little fuzzy on. I feel like I've always known Brent, you know.
Used to play tennis together, right?
We played tennis together. He's a very good tennis player. I believe he was like best player on whatever school he went to, you know, kind of guy. But where I was just recreational, so he'd always kick my butt.
Fun. And so the very accomplished Ryan Lindsay is credited as guest piano parts for Inside of Me and Rosemary. He, of course, now fronts the band Broncho. Let's talk a little bit about how his involvement came about.
You know, I'm not sure if he was playing live with us before that or not. Because I kind of feel like he should have been credited as a piano player. I mean, as a part of the group on the album, because after that he was always with us until the end of the band. So Ryan's a awesome dude, funny guy, and he did a great job of playing on those two songs. So really fortunate to have him. We recorded those piano parts at actually the Oklahoma, the School of Music. I forget which building it's called. But we knew someone who worked there, and there was a grand piano there, and so we took our preamp and our mics and our converters and a little laptop and a couple mics that I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just was like, well, let's put one mic by the bass notes, and let's put one mic by the treble notes, on the back of the grand, so not like by the keys or anything. But it ended up sounding great, so kind of got lucky there. Dodged a bullet, but...
and you get to hear some of his early Broncho ideas, right?
Yeah, later on, he would bring... Before they started the band, he was, writing some of those now famous Broncho first record songs. And he was writing for some movie that was maybe supposed to be set in the 80s or something. 70s, 80s, kind of replacements type thing. But I think that's kind of how they got their start. But yeah, it was really cool to sort of experience that, right, and sort of see where it went. Really proud of him.
Redman's got your ring. Redman's got your ring. Okay, now let's dig into talking about the actual songs. And starting, of course, with Pumpkin. The album kicks off with that song, and it is so catchy with its chorus and amazing work by the brass section. Pumpkin was born and raised pretty quickly, you said.
Yeah, I mean, the writing of it, we were playing it live before that, I'm positive of that, because I remember. And, I mean, I don't, it is one of the, there's a few songs on the album I don't particularly remember writing, per se, and that is one of them, but it came along quickly, and we were just all of a sudden playing it live, and right. I think we had a little bit of trouble finishing it in the studio. We added a bridge or something, but yeah, one of my favorites.
Right, so you do have a version of it with that's all sampled horns and drum machine. It
is the original sort of meat and potatoes. But you want to hear it?
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Steering wheel, I think it might be broken, but like a knife, it cuts. My love was nearly something like a pumpkin, because I feel alone, and it scars my tongue, all because my heart is cold, and the words they burn my soul.
Anyway, so that was using drum machine, reason bass, orchestra reason for the trumpets and parts. It's all sketchbook stuff.
Yeah, kind of a deconstruction.
Except for the guitar and vocals. So
Right. Very cool.
But yeah, it was really cool to finally get to hear the real drums. And
right. That's very cool. So second track, Torts.
Torts.
Definitely a favorite track there. And Gene Triplett of the Oklahoman said of this song, "Then things turn abruptly dark and satirical, as this band's music is wont to do on Torts, wherein, quote, Mommy killed a mouse, baby burned the house, daddy found the pills, and the band whistles a sinister-sounding melody that would be at home on the soundtrack of a merrily macabre Tim Burton film." And I love that quote, and that he references Tim Burton because, of course,
Wednesday.
16 years later, we'd have our song, Your Love Is It Real, placed in his Netflix series, Wednesday. But yeah, you've said you were really glad that idea made the record.
Yeah, I mean, I had been toying around with it for years, and not really taking it too seriously, but then just sort of decided like I like that catchiness of the whistle part, and I wanted to add more and try out some more things. And so,
and you were actually the lone whistler, right?
I was alone in a lot of things on that song.
But lone whistler on that, it's just like the Bandit,
whistle,
right?
Yeah, it's just like, the song The Bandit is very similar in that there's like that group whistles, but it's really just me whistling in several tracks,
Well, so you have this version before you track the drums, can we listen to that one?
There's much setup for this. Let's give it a listen and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, it's a little bit extended.
That wasn't it. Again, the drums are all reason.
All you lawyers and judges in reading rooms, this song goes out to you. As your counselor wishes that I could prove, everyone travels in twos. Is it the end of the beginning? Mommy killed a mouse, baby burned the house, daddy found the pills. Monkey bought a church, Jesus called it earth, there's no one else to blame. So evil was the tort, a toaster and a fork, that everybody caved. The monkey couldn't lie, the jury wouldn't buy, perfect alibi.
Anyway, so yeah, it does the same thing there, but then it has another. Instead of going to, is this the end or the beginning? It keeps on going to another chorus that I ended up cutting out.
That's fun hearing you do all the octaves there.
Yeah, so it was a really good segue song into Inside of Me, and we tied them literally together.
Right. So going into that one, of course, that was a big time favorite of both of us to the extent that we did an updated version on our most recent Periscope at Midnight EP by Double V. We did updated, called it Maybe Tonight, What's Inside of Me. But so in an interview with Paste at the time, you said, I've done so many versions of that song. I knew it was going to be important at some point, so I picked that version, added a few things to it, and then just tried not to overdo it.
Yeah, it was really important that, I'd learned some lessons, like in overanalyzing songs or being so... with that song in particular, it had such a catchy piano part that, I still haven't really, I still could consider it going other places, but I could have just driven myself crazy for years,
Right.
And I did really drive myself a little crazy on that song for years. We're talking 1996, 97.
Right. And whatever. It's one of the few Mint songs to have a music video for it, right?
Yeah, we'll play that here.
Right. It was Sean Downey.
Sean Downey, yes.
Produced a video. And
friend of ours.
A friend, and it's like no HD, kind of older video, lots of kind of
Yeah, there's not a
retro
I don't
charm
think there will ever
to
be an
it.
HD version, unfortunately, but fingers crossed, maybe.
Okay, well, yeah, let's watch a little of it, and of course, you can see the whole thing on YouTube.
Maybe tonight, if I could sleep tonight, we could fall on through. And I could drive, sleep or miss that breeze inside of me. Well, I don't need your sympathy, but I could use your company just to see if it could bring these things true. So come inside and be my skin and bone.
Alrighty, and
That's a fun video.
Yes, very much so.
We cut I think he had us move into the different positions, 3D, so he could move our bodies, and then had me lip sync, and I think Marion did some lip syncing, but it looks really cool. There's some cool parts to it.
Right, very cool. And so next is Pearl's Submarine Number 2. Can you talk some about that song and how it relates to Submarine Number 3, which is, of course, the opening track on the Mints' debut album, The Dream That Stuff Was Made Of?
Yeah, so back when I was kind of a younger songwriter, I would write down words, and a lot of those words would be on a lot of different ideas. And so, for whatever reasons, submarine's kind of a cool word. It's been used, like Bee Gees songs, Beatles songs, but I had literally 3 songs that were all really cool songs that had the word submarine in it. And that was the only thing that was similar. But there was a Submarine Number 1, which I forgot the name of the song, which we called at the time. My second band, Shrinker, did, and it had the term "You're a baby submarine" or something like that. And this was the second song, and literally, the second one, I came up with this probably the same week, was this song.
That was an old 4-track
Pearls,
demo.
yeah, and it kind of has this sort of Jan and Dean vibe to it. I've always really liked that idea, and
You detuned your E string, right?
I did. That was kind of the thing back then. As a matter of fact, that other submarine, the first submarine song, has the same tuning, so I don't know, what am I trying to say here?
It's very catchy.
Yeah, it's kind of a filler song for the record. Now that I look back on it, I just always kind of told myself I need, this song, maybe it was nostalgia, Did you
want to play a little on acoustic?
I don't have it tuned to that. I was going to play the other song.
Okay, forget that I said that.
Oh yeah, no, I can play this on acoustic. Motor death as far as I can see. Died of worms on a submarine. I don't remember it. Going faster, it's like going faster. I'm a god bee, I'm a god bee, I'm a god bee. I'm messing it all up, but anyway, it's fun to kind of play it. But that was sort of the style back then. You had these the D tuned to the same note as the A string, so you have this double droney sound to it, kind of, And there was a lot of that. We had a lot of songs.
So next track, 17 Devils, which I just have always loved how it starts, just the violins weaving kind of a mysterious intro before the melody kicks in, with then the guitars trading off and working together. And this is one of the Mint songs I really think you could have had an interesting narrative music video produced for it.
Yeah, unfortunately we didn't have the budget, but right. I think so too.
Yeah. In an interview with the Chicago Times, you said, "I like to arrange the songs as we go, so that if I was working on a song like 17 Devils, writing it on guitar, I heard that string intro part when the drums kick in maybe 30 seconds after I had the initial idea, and it all kind of started there. I'm hearing the songs with everything in mind. I'm kind of more into the music, and the lyrics kind of just happen. you have to sing something, have something to sing, right? One day I hope to be able to make music that doesn't have any lyrics at all.
And I did, really, with another song.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that.
Yeah, you know, interviews weren't my best thing, but the song's great. It really, you know, I probably had like 3 different versions of it until the 17 Devils stuck and the Hector.
Right, you've had it for like 6 years.
Yeah,
You're working on it with Sardi a little bit.
I brought it to the idea to New York when we were finishing up the Dream What Stuff Was Made Of, and I was thinking about trying to finish it and put it on the first record. I mean, it would have not have fit, and I'm really surprised it didn't make it to Built on Squares. It was such a solid idea.
Right. In an interview with the Oklahoman, you said that you had rewrote the song lyrics probably 3 or 4 times, depending on the part, and it never really made sense to you what it was about.
Yeah.
And that many of your old songs were written like that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't make sense of a lot of things, but, you know, I like playing off words.
Right,
and stuff.
17 was what you told me.
17 was the key, like the only thing that was sticking with that song. No, like it was like 17 seconds or something, you know. I was like, well, we can't do that. And so.
Obviously.
Yeah, and so once the 17 Devils stuck, and then the Hector, which I have no idea who Hector is or whatever.
Kind of a love song for Hector.
Yeah, it ended up being kind of like this sort of a weird love song.
Hector, isn't there a Hector in Breaking Bad?
Probably.
Right, mixing
things
up. Been a while.
Sounds familiar.
And then, of course, we go rollicking into Rhino Stomp.
Yeah, speaking of instrumentals.
Right, is an awesome, great instrumental track. Immediate favorite of mine. Your grasp of just, you know, scoring related work was just very evident with this one. It's just this great kind of lurching piece of music. And I always love a good like instrumental intermission on an otherwise, you know, vocals heavy album. And it's just such an evocative and cinematic piece. It's really, really works well. And
shout out to Steve Burns of Blues Clues fame for kind of overhearing me playing that on my laptop and sort of.
How you said like 2003 or something, or
2003 we were touring together. We were on the same label and we were his backup band, or part of us were. I was doing all his backing tracks and stuff, but I always liked that idea, and it was sort of like nice reinforcement for someone I didn't
supportive. Yeah. That's cool. So. You have a version, it's kind of a little bit shorter, of course. You have a live version that was more like, you know, the 3 minutes for the album and then shorter live.
Yeah, it's really weird because I started the idea as the short like 2-minute thing, which we would play like while we were walking on stage pre-recorded. And then we eventually were playing it, that same arrangement, that 2-minute. And then for whatever reason on that record, we made it this long 3-minute thing. And when we went back after the record came out, we would always play it. And we're starting to play it the long version and realize, man, it really sounds better as a 2-minute, you know, little ditty segue into another song. And so,
I mean, you were playing cello on it originally and then switched to guitar?
Yeah, I was playing cello live for sure because, you know, it's a cello song. Contrabass sort of.
But then you put the cello backing tracks, right?
Yeah, Ryan ended up playing like the contrabass parts on his keyboard, and so eventually I switched to guitar. It just kind of like rocked a little bit more.
Kind of wall the sound.
And that was like sort of a staple of our set. It sort of like kind of divided the set in half, you know.
Cool.
Or sometimes we play it the first thing, you know. It's kind of cool.
Awesome. Well, let's listen to that.
Yeah, let's listen to this old version. I believe this is the version we would play as we walked on stage, maybe. Let me go to the top here. Of course, this is all, again, Reason drums and all samples. good for samplers too. And it has a little delay. I haven't heard this in a long time. Anyway, so did you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that. I wish we would have kind of put that in there, but
Right.
so old
Somebody
versions. I haven't heard. I
by
just
a rhino?
pulled this out today. I found this version today, and I'm glad I did.
Right. That's very cool. So we will bring it down a little bit for the next track, which is, of course, The Killer. And in an interview with the Oklahoman, you said it may sound a little evil in its title, but it's very personal and one of my favorites.
Yeah, at the time it was. I really liked it. I think it's kind of a filler song, but I really like this version that we're going to play here, which is kind of a more, even though it's a pretty stripped down song, this version is just the like acoustic with another acoustic playing the hook. And then just
so no effects,
me singing,
no EQ, just
me singing and me harmonizing.
Right.
I think that's it. So check that out.
Great.
A killer comes, a killer grows. He walks into a killer's home and says good night to the moon. He has a killer's house and car, quite different than his old guitars. He slowly kill in me, but I do refuse to believe. Killer comes to her back door. He will not knock, but I'm not quite sure. He knows the blue bird sings, but I do refuse to believe.
Like that with the stripped version. Something about that. Just the simpleness of it.
Right. It's very evocative.
Yeah. I don't think we ever played that live. It's never.
No, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the metaphors involved with that song. All right, so that brings us to Eyes of the Night, which is pretty much the most widely heard Starlight Mints song. It was used as the title theme for the 2009 BBC miniseries Demons, which introduced it to a whole new group of listeners. And of course, you and I already produced a mini doc about that song, which folks can see on this very YouTube channel. But was there anything else maybe that we didn't cover on that you want to talk about? You said you might want to like even redo it someday. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it has. It's like it's so close to being like perfect to me that I just would take out a couple things here and there, and maybe change a lyric or two. You know, there's we talk about this in the other video a lot, but you know, like the cookies, and you know, there's a lot of
Oh, the lyrics are part of what makes it great. So.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily just mess up a song too
That's very true. So and that initial scream, do you think you could really?
I never will be able to do that again. I've tried, and I'm not going to try again. I have no idea what kind of got into me when I did it or anything. I mean, it was just sort of there. And it could have been from another song. I don't know. It just sort of ended up there.
Right. That's perfect.
I mean, live we had it in a backing track, so it would just be going off, and I don't think I was even attempted to try to mimic or with it or try to lip sync with it. It was just sort of a thing. So anyway.
Right. Okay, so track 9 is the title track of the album, Drowaton. And I always love the tempo changes and the cryptic lyrics. And in an interview with the Tulsa World, you said, a song like Drowaton means nothing to me other than a pieced together experiment. It's pretty dramatic sounding, I guess, but I just fished around for phrases until the timer went off.
Yeah, it was an idea of mine that Andy really pushed for, and it was I think I said that because I felt like it was a task. I mean, I really have more of appreciation for it today, for sure. But I think at that time of the interview, I was feeling like, it was kind of a hard song to finish. To put lyrics to, but in the end, I kind of transformed myself to a trip I took to my uncle's in Arizona. We were up in the mountains in this valley, and
lots of hummingbirds.
There were hummingbirds everywhere, and you can see the imagery in the song, or you hear the imagery in the song of that trip where
You were sleeping outside in a tent.
I was.
You said it was kind of a weird, lonely kind of experience.
It was, and we'll keep it at that.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty melancholy. So let's pick up the pace. The next track, of course, is the Bee, which love that one too. It has a kind of a pirate shanty tune feel to it, and it's again one of those songs that features your just mastery of mid-song time changes and those.
Yeah, there's slight time changes. Yeah.
Right. Well,
I mean, it was my infatuation with the 1960s classic, They're Coming to Take Me Away, with that Tarantella beat.
Right. You say you got some actual 8-track versions, very early versions.
Yeah, I've been working that in the late 90s as well. Always loved the idea and just wanted to do a song with the Tarantella beat.
Right. It has such great descriptive lyrics. Her eyes were sticking to the walls. My mind was making individual calls. She smelled like whispers in the rain, but the cherry jet was not an airplane. She was easy to please, much more than your average bee. It's great.
Yeah, there's stories to that song. It was kind of like a mixture of the initial idea I had of the song, which had those lyrics, most of those lyrics that you just were saying, and then some weird tour shenanigans, and it just sort of came together, it was, it's really not about anything, but it's, it's fun, and it has a little bit of emotion to it in the middle, and kind of comes back. It was always a really good staple, fun song to play live, too.
Right, I bet. And next up is Rosemary, one that's been often referred to as being Beatles-esque.
Kinks.
Yeah, Beatles, Kinks, kind of same family.
Those who know.
There was an interview with the wonderful Josh McBee of the Norman Transcripts Pop Entertainment section. And in that you said, with a few of the newer songs, I say newer, but most of them have been in the works for about 3 years, like Pumpkin and Rosemary, I just kind of let it come out without too much thought except into the arranging.
Yeah, I don't have a huge recollection of writing that song. I mean, I have hardly any.
The files date back to 2004 on that
3
one.
Maybe
2003. Maybe. But you were playing it live before.
We were playing it live. I mean, I just kind of figured this out today. We were playing it live, and I think that's what happened. Is I wrote it really fast, and we were just playing it live, and it sort of just, just happened, which is cool. It's really cool to like think back about a song to say it just happened. I mean, a couple songs on this record are like that, but
right. We know it's nice when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember anyone else helping it on it. Was just sort of like this personal song of mine. And it really didn't change a whole lot, like within the context of us playing it live and then us of recording it. So.
Right. You say so. You have a session here we can hear about around the time you started editing Ryan's piano and Steven's cello really cool. And with the bass.
I wanted to mix it up.
Yeah, kind of stripped down without the vocals. It's nice
really
to
cool.
hear.
It's Ryan's piano with another piano that I'm playing like on Reason.
The left channel?
Sort of a guide. What?
In the left channel? Is that?
I think it's in the right channel.
Oh, okay.
And then you have Steven's cello, which is great. He really showcases his cello. Beautiful. We can really it's fun to like solo out these sort of things and hear the sort of samples mixed down with the real instruments.
Right. It's nice. Which brings us to the final track of the album, Sidewalk, which is a little slower paced, beautiful song with Kevin Webb on the trombone.
That's right.
And you say there's a jam session that this song came from.
And I couldn't answer the complete story of this song, but it's fun to hear this jam session. I'm not sure which came first, which is this jam session or Andy's like version that he did.
He had a musical hook that
the musical
hook
off,
right?
is the only thing out of this that makes sense. So we had this idea for a while, and I loved it. I thought it was great, but we had all these different versions until we kind of settled in with the version of me doing the.
Yeah, you wrote all these melodies, different octaves.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like it was two different people singing, because like I started off going, it's singing in the falsetto, and then the next verse it goes down an octave.
When I see my coffin in the street, hear my ghost on the TV, I got news for those who see how it happened with no memory.
But I really appreciate the song, and it's sort of like it's one of my favorites. It's a good one, but check out the jam session. It's really, really bizarre listening to this, where the song kind of came from. You hear it there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's me on drums, by the way. And he's on keyboard. And our friend Dan Pringle's on bass, I believe. Definitely has the feel, that same tempo, but completely different sort of entity. we could have easily taken that idea and made a pretty cool song, you know, but we had all these ideas, and it was sort of like transcending, and eventually we was like, all right, let's try one last thing or whatever, you know, and it ended up being what it is. So
that's a great way to end the album.
Yeah.
So 3 of these songs were placed in movies and TV shows, with Eyes of the Night on Demons, as we said, and it was also used in the 2006 movie Van Wilder, The Rise of Taj. And then Pumpkin was heard in Californication during episode 2 of season 3.
That's a great show, by the way.
Yes, awesome show. David Duchovny, shout out. And most recently, Inside of Me was very faintly heard in the background of a scene of the 2021 tornado movie, 13 Minutes. So that's great. And of course, all of those placements facilitated by the lovely folks at Bank Robber Music and Rough Trade Publishing.
Shout out.
Yes, shout out to our pals there. And you said kind of every song you were kind of in your mind, kind of seeing it in film or TV at that point, right?
I mean, I'm wishing and hoping, yeah.
Other fun reviews of the album. There was Drew DeFan of the Kalamazoo Gazette, and he said, "This record is as fun as playing in the Chuck E. Cheese ball pit when you were a kid. Plus, you won't get pink eye."
Pink eye. He must have gotten pink eye, that guy. I've had
great,
pink eye
though.
a few times in my life, but never from Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, well, you said you really wouldn't even call it a fun record necessarily, but
I think after, I mean, like
fun moments.
Today was we had a big revisit today, and I think it's a lot more. I think it's dark, but it's kind of rocking at the same time and fun, you know. So it has its ups and downs.
Right. You said you would definitely go back and change a few things, but ultimately it was a fun.
It was a really good slice of life for me, you know. It was a lot of freedom. And I fondly remember those days.
Right. And Kim Newman of Alter magazine said, "Besides the complicated musical prowess is the simple fact that Starlight Mints might even be able to out They Might Be Giants with literate yet utterly nonsensical wordplay." And that's just an awesome, huge compliment, of course. You know, we are...
And we just saw They Might Be Giants.
Huge fans.
Not too long ago. That was like
well,
one of the last shows we saw.
Yeah, we saw them perform Flood in its entirety in Houston that year, and
we get to do an after party, a rare after party, not with the guys
not
from
with
the band,
them, but no, our
actually
awesome,
one of the guys, the sound guy from the band,
later commented on Facebook, which was very nice.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
But no, we stayed at an Airbnb, and it ended up that the owner was also going to the concert, George, and it was just really awesome. We ended up hanging out that night.
And he was a Mints fan.
He was a Mints fan, established Mints fan.
Said like a name of a song right when we were like, you know, and it was like, wow, cool. And so we ended up hanging out, having some drinks in the secret bar in the
secret bar in the Airbnb.
In the Airbnb,
yeah. We love George. But anyway, yeah, They Might Be Giants, going back to what we're talking about here. Yeah, just I see that too, easily, just the fun of the wordplay. But then Luke O'Neill of Alternative Press said, "Pianos, bells, violins, whistling solos, and fuzzy squelches of psychedelic knob twiddling orchestrate a chamber pop that alternates between Charlie Brown dance party funk and spooky organ grinding, sometimes within the same song. Allan Vest's vocals bind the songs together with the poetic ramblings of an insane carnival barker."
Yeah,
Yes.
I can see. I at first I was like Carnival Barker, but then I thought about it. I was like, yeah, Eyes of the Night. I can kind of see that. you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see you trying to coerce a few folks into your tent.
You're funny.
Right. So, and last review that we'll talk about. So, in Magnet's review of the album, Hobart Rowland said, the Starlight Mints have used their relative anonymity and sluggish album every few years output to their advantage. The group always seems to beam down its perky and pristine Paisley pop transmissions from the planet Strange but Beautiful, just about the time fans and critics are thinking, whatever happened to the Starlight Mints?
That is so Hobart. I'm just joking.
Kidding, of course, but you said you were a little sluggish, but, you were touring, you were keeping busy.
We were busy, we had lives, and, a lot of bands, I think that's how they do it, Some bands take longer,
Right. And
so we put out 4 records in 9 years. And
how the touring for this album specifically, you toured for like nearly 2 months that summer and then a short run.
Feels like we toured a lot
February.
longer than that, but yeah. It was great though. I mean, I have really fond memories of before making the record, because we were playing those songs, and then after the record, it was like kind of the heyday of the band, I think, live.
Ryan there on you.
Oh yeah, and Ryan being in the band, we just were really on point, and it was refreshing, because the first album we were pretty rough around the edges, and then Built on Squares we started getting our act together, but we didn't have a huge song selection, and then we wrote these, the 4 new songs, and then the additional songs, felt like a real, we could play a really long set for the first time of great original music, to me,
So then, after the album release and promotional efforts were kind of winding down, you had started work on the 4th and final Starlight Mints album, 2009's Change Remains.
Completely different experience, that record. Not a really good experience, comparatively, but a lot less work in the editing department for sure. We really just used samples.
You'd moved to Texas at this point, so it was kind of long distance.
Doing sort of the back and forth, going to work for a little bit, would sleep at the Opolis. In the actual building, I would put these couches together to make a bed, and actually worked there. But yeah, we had some more problems getting into the not mixing, but actually finishing a song on some of the songs on that album. We had to really kind of get rolling.
All right. Well, this 3rd album was, of course, amazing from start to finish, and really appreciated you taking this time for all of us to hear this little walk down memory lane. Happy 20th anniversary to Drowaton.
Closet was slowly untied by her sister Margaret. A promise she aimed at a dusty target. The first 10 fled through the back porch window. 4 of them flew over her head. Still the 3 he had. All he ever wanted was the key to everything. A sword in memory and 4 new batteries. There wasn't much to tell her till